The age-old question that has plagued photographers since the dawn of digital cameras. To keep the ISO at a bare minimum or crank it up like a rock star? Well, folks, strap in because we're about to dive deep into the uproarious world of ISO settings. First off, let's debunk a myth. Keeping your ISO lower than a snake's belly in a wagon rut is not always the golden ticket to immaculate photos. Sure, low ISO means less noise. But what about those moody jazz club shots where the only light comes from the soulful glow of a saxophone player's forehead sweat? You're going to need to bump up that ISO faster than a cat on a hot tin roof. Now, let's talk about the dynamic duo, shutter speed and aperture. These two are like the peanut butter and jelly of photography. Change one, and you've got to adjust the other to maintain that perfect exposure sandwich. Raise the ISO, and you're playing a risky game of noise roulette. But fear not. With a keen eye on your shutter speed and aperture, you can keep that noise at bay like a garlic necklace at a vampire party. So, when the situation screams for more light, and you've already opened your aperture wider than a yawning hippo, and your shutter speed is slower than a sloth on a lazy Sunday, it's time to crank up the ISO. Embrace the grain like an art connoisseur admiring a Pointillist painting. After all, a little noise never hurt anyone. It's like the seasoning on a gourmet dish, just enough to give it flavor, but too much and dine at the grainy cafe. In conclusion, my fellow shutterbugs, don't let ISO fearmonger you in an underexposed oblivion. Raise that ISO with pride when the moment calls for it. Just keep an eagle eye on your shutter speed and aperture, and you'll be crafting masterpieces with the confidence of a squirrel finding the last acorn before winter. Snap on. The art of monochrome. Embracing the black and white perspective. In the vibrant tapestry of photography, there's a quaint little corner that's reserved for the lovers of monochrome. It's a world where colors don't scream for attention, and the subject shouts and whispers. It's the black and white zone, where less is more, and noise is just a distant memory. Now, let's talk about noise. Not the kind that has your neighbors knocking on your door at 3 a.m., but the visual static that sometimes plagues our photos. It's like that one uninvited guest at a party who shows up anyway, eating all the snacks. Noise can be a nuisance, but fear not, for there's a classic trick in the book, going black and white. When you strip away the colors, you're not just removing the hues. You're peeling back layers to reveal the soul of the picture. It's like watching an old film noir movie. There's drama, there's intensity, and there's a certain je ne sais quoi that color just can't provide. The blacks are deeper than a philosopher's thoughts, and the whites are purer than a snowflake on Christmas morning. But why stop at just removing noise? Black and white photography is about exploring shapes, textures, and contrasts. It's about finding beauty in the shadows and highlights, and about telling a story with gradients of gray. It's about looking at the world through a different lens, quite literally. So, the next time you're about to discard a photo because it's too noisy, pause and ponder. Maybe, just maybe, it's begging for that timeless makeover. Convert it to black and white, and watch as it transforms from a noisy mess to a classy, sophisticated portrait that speaks volumes without saying a word. In the end, photography, like life, is all about perspective. And sometimes, the best perspective is the one that's not splashed with color, but one that's honest and raw, in glorious shades of gray. So go ahead, give your photos the black and white treatment, and let them tell their stories in a tone that's as old as time, yet as fresh as the morning dew. Who knows? You might just find that the noise was the conversation starter all along.